Today we're sewing two patterns together, a complete underwear set, the Dana Bralette and Panties pattern from Seamwork. The sizing for this pattern ranges from 0 to 26. I'm sewing the smallest size in this video. We'll be using 1/4 inch elastic, 1/2 inch elastic, and fold-over elastic, as well as comfy cotton fabric with 4-way stretch. I'll link all of these supplies in the description below. This is such a cute pair. I've already made 2 sets and look forward to quite a few more, especially because I can use various leftover knit fabrics from my stash. Join me today in making this simple and very practical duo. Let's get started. Place your front and back bralette pieces right sides together, aligning the side seams and pin in place. Sew with your preferred stretch stitch. I'm using a narrow zigzag stitch with a width of 0.5 and a length of 2.5, and we're sewing with a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Here's the wrong side of the front and back pieces opened out away from each other. We're going to start elasticating this top portion starting with the center area. We're using 1/4 inch elastic, which we're going to line up with that top edge, lining it up along the edge from one top peak all the way to the other. We're going to be sewing it in place from peak to peak. With a wide zigzag stitch, I'm going to be using a length and width of about 4. Note that we're applying this elastic at a 1-to-1 ratio. We won't be stretching the elastic or the fabric as we go. Now that the elastic has been initially applied to that center top edge, we're going to fold it to the inside right along the elastic, and we're going to top stitch in place from peak to peak using that same zigzag stitch. We're going to elasticate the top center edges in the same way. First, aligning the elastic on the wrong side of the fabric along that top edge and zigzagging in place. And once that elastic is sewn in place, we'll turn it to the inside along the elastic, encasing it in place, and zigzag to top stitch. Repeat on both sides of the front piece. Here is one of my center front edges, and we're going to baste from top to bottom using the longest stitch on your machine. And we're going to do this for both center front edges. Now I'm going to pull the basting stitches to gather those center front edges until both of the center front sections measure 2.5 inches in length. Note that I'm sewing the smallest bra size here. If you're sewing a much larger size, refer to the pattern instructions for the length of your center front area. Now that my center fronts are the same length, I'll place the front pieces right sides together and pin in place. Then we can sew that center front area with a wide zigzag stitch. Here is the center front seam that we just created, and we're going to add elastic to this section. Using another piece of 1/4 inch elastic, sew it with a zigzag stitch to the seam allowance only. Now that the elastic is sewn to the seam allowance, I'm going to press the seam to the side of the elastic to conceal the elastic in place. Then from the front of the garment, we're going to top stitch from top to bottom along that center front, top stitching on the side of the center front that has the elastic underneath. Once again, using your wide zigzag stitch. To elasticate the bottom of the bra, I'm going to be using 1/2 inch wide elastic. The length of the elastic should be the length of the distance around the bottom of the bra. So for me, that's about 27 inches, and I'm going to deduct 1 inch so that the bottom elastic will then be 26 inches for the smallest bra size. I'll overlap the short ends of the elastic by 1/2 inch and zigzag in place to secure. Now I'm going to 1/4 the elastic. I'm also going to 1/4 the bottom edge of the bra. Then placing the elastic along the wrong side of the fabric and the bottom edge, I'll match up my quarter points and pin in place. Then I'm going to baste the elastic in place, stretching the elastic to fit as I go. For this bottom section, I want the most stretch, so I'm going to be using a triple zigzag stitch. Now that I have that bottom elastic secured in place, we're going to turn it to the wrong side, right along the edge of the elastic, and top stitch in place with that same triple zigzag stitch. Now to create the bra straps, you can use fold over elastic. And to determine the length of the elastic, I've tried the bra on to see how long I need it to be over my shoulder to a comfortable length that gently hugs my top shoulder area. For me, I've determined that length to be 10 inches, and I've added 1 inch of allowance. I've cut 2 pieces to that length. Now I'll fold them in half and top stitch with a zigzag. To prepare those top pointed edges on the front piece, we're going to fold back those peaks to the wrong side so that when it's folded back, the top edge is the same width as the strap. I'm going to tack those top folded edges to the wrong side just using a needle and thread. Then we can place the short edge of our strap behind the top peak so that the short edge of the strap extends beyond that inner top edge by 1/2 inch. Pin in place. Now that I have my straps pinned in place to the top inside edge, you can use your machine to bar tack those straps in place. Since this can be a tricky area for your machine to sew, you can also do this by hand, just sewing many stitches to make sure that strap is secure. Now that the front of the straps are secured, we can secure the back parts. I've transferred the markings from the back pattern piece to mark where the straps are going to be placed. Making sure that the strap is not twisted, I'll carry it over to the back piece, allowing the strap to extend 1/2 inch beyond the top edge. Pin in place at the marking. Repeat for both straps. Then we can go to the sewing machine and bar tack along the top edge to secure the back of the strap. And now the bralette is complete. Now let's sew the underwear. Place your front and back underwear pieces right sides together and pin the side seams. Sew the side seams with a 3/8 inch seam allowance. I'm going to be using a narrow zigzag stitch with a width of 0.5 and a length of 2.5. Then I'll press the seams open. Here's my gusset piece. If your knit fabric is prone to fraying, you can finish the unnotched edge of your gusset piece. I'm going to leave mine unfinished. Now I'll place the right side of my gusset on the wrong side of my panty back piece and pin in place, matching the notches. Now that that's secured in place, I'll place the front side of the underwear right sides together with the back side. And I'll add the bottom of the front piece to my pinning. Now I'll sew through all layers with my narrow zigzag stitch, using your 3/8 inch seam allowance. Now I'll turn my gusset piece over to the front piece so that the outer edges align and pin in place. Now that I have that gusset piece wrong sides together with the front pant piece, I'm going to baste those side edges in place. Now we're ready to elasticate the top edge of the underwear. I'm going to measure a piece of 1/4 inch elastic to fit the distance across the entire upper edge. Once I have that measurement, I will deduct 1 inch from that total. For me, for the smallest panty size, my elastic is 24 inches for the waist. I'll overlap the short edges by 1/2 inch and stitch in place back and forth. Now I'll quarter the elastic. I'll also quarter the top edge of the underwear. I'll align the outer edge of my elastic with the top raw edge of the underwear on the wrong side of the fabric, aligning my quarter points and pinning in place. I'm going to stitch the elastic along the top edge with a triple zigzag stitch. Now that my elastic is attached along that top edge, I'll fold the elastic to the wrong side right along the edge of the elastic, and I'm going to sew once more along that top edge using that triple zigzag stitch. I'm going to follow the same process for the leg openings. I'm going to use a 1-to-1 ratio for the elastic. I'm going to match the length of the elastic to the leg opening. I'll overlap the short ends once again and secure with a zigzag stitch. Then I'll place the outer edge of the elastic along the bottom edge on the wrong side of the leg opening. And I'll secure in place all the way around with a triple zigzag stitch, just as I did for the waistline. Then I'll turn my elastic edges to the inside right along the edge of the elastic and top stitch once again with a triple zigzag stitch, just as we did for the upper edge. After you've completed both leg openings, your underwear is complete. Thank you for watching this sew along. Subscribe to the channel for more full-length sewing tutorials, and I'll see you in the next video.